we'll bring the meeting to order. 1:35. Sorry about being a little late. And why don't we start with the opening prayer? Read.
Would you pray with me, please? Our holy and gracious God, we gather together today to conduct community business. And we ask that you bless our activities and bless all present here and their families. We also ask that you bless our community and our nation and all those that serve us nationally. Forgive us of our sins, we pray. Amen.
Yeah. Okay, so just a couple of things. As usual, we'll have discussion at the end. We'll go through the agenda, have our discussion at the end. Take any other business that we need to take in the meeting. In the meantime, I think what we'll do is start off with the approval of the minutes. Make a motion to approve the minutes from January. Has everybody read them?
Yes.
And are there any objections to the meeting minutes?
None.
No. Anybody want a second?
Second.
Second? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank
Go
you.
sign, please.
And Rita, you can go.
All righty. Am I on? Can everybody hear me? Okay. Well, before I start, I'd like to recognize someone, and that is Susan, on her 29th anniversary here at the Tower. I know I appreciate her dedication and service and look forward to a grand 30th year party next year. All right, moving on to the financials. Did the same format as last month. It seemed to be easier to follow along. I'll start forecasting after the first quarter of this year, so you won't see that on the income statement yet. We're showing the January actuals, the January budget, the monthly variance, and the percentage of that. On page 1, line item that's labeled number 1, you'll see the total revenues is $512,806, which is 2% better than budget. Our dining services income was up almost $5,000 for the month. Moving to expenses, line number 2, our total expenses before depreciation was $380,485, which is also 2% better than budget. Some notable line items are the fact that our dining services employee cost was right on budget, as well as their overall budget, which is a major change for us. However, you'll notice the utilities, we were still 11% over budget. It's very critical that we meet with a consultant on our utilities. That was offset by being under budget by 11% in the maintenance area. Moving to line 4, our net income was $112,642, which was better than budget by 16%. So you'll see January overall was a good month, and anticipate the rest of the year to follow along. But I am concerned about the utilities, so that's something that we definitely want to work on.
Was there, I didn't look at it this month, but was there anything on the utilities, on electricity and the CPI report?
We were having feedback.
The electricity, it was about normal. However, our issue is water. Our water skyrocketed. So we thought leak, but we've checked it. They've checked on their end, no leak.
Is this where I tell people not to take showers?
Well,
No.
Sorry.
Just a thought.
We may have adjusted some of that with the fact that we found how the condo was, we're losing a lot of hot water through a crossover pipe system.
right, on
And that could,
7 stack.
and I think it's going on in some other places too that we don't have reported yet, so I believe we'll be able to see an improvement. At least I hope that'll be an improvement.
I hope so too, because our water normally stays pretty consistent. So. All right, moving on to cash management, page 2. Our total capital reserve account at the end of January was $1,447,660. Our total operating account was $549,750, which overall is an increase of $50,000 over the previous month. Our largest cash outlay in January that is not a normal occurring payment was a workman's comp renewal of $26,000. So the end of January, our total cash was $1,997,410, which is $928,000 more than the previous January. I believe it's about $2,500 off from hitting the $2 million mark.
Okay, so I just, if you don't mind, I'd like to make a motion here. So that the operating cash is $550,000. Okay, and we at the end of last year in the budget, what we said is that we thought that the comfortable place for us to be was at
4 1/4.
4 1/4. So what the first thing I'd like to do is say, I'd like to make a motion to move $100,000 into the capital reserve account, right, from the operating account, because it doesn't do us any good. It's just sitting there and not using it. So would anybody second that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, we'll move $100,000.
While we're on that, I know I've got it on the agenda. You want to go ahead and talk about increase in the monthly reserve? From
Yeah,
20,000 to
because I
30?
do, because I also see that, the spread increased from 519 to 549. And, if everything holds true, which we expected it to do because we thought it was gonna shed off about $500,000 in cash, right? What I'd like to do here is also make a motion to increase the deposit to the reserve monthly from 20,000 to 30,000. Anybody want us?
Second.
Second?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
A question. You said from 20 to 30? At any time can we, if we see that continues to grow, we can make another motion to increase it?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. The other thing that we could do is we could make a motion like the first one, which is check it in a quarter, and if there's 100,000, if it's back up to 550, then what we'll do is sweep another 100,000.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Did you get, Scott?
Well, as you mentioned, I was just looking back at the operating cash over the previous months, and some months they're basically staying the same. Other months it goes up 3,000, and then it jumps 20,000, and then it jumps. That's a $50,000 jump there, and then it's $1,000 jump the next month. So I don't know if I think we'd be just smart to go ahead and quarterly review it, and make a quarterly sweep.
So
Because
then,
otherwise, because we're not consistent enough, I don't think, at this point to.
I'm okay with that. We'll leave it as a $20,000.
Yes, leave it as 20
Where
right
we're
now
at,
instead of
and then
going to
take a
30.
quarterly.
Yeah, take a quarterly.
And do a sweep.
Take a quarterly.
All right. I'm perfectly good with that. I don't think 10,000 a month for 3 months matters. I just want to make sure that we've built up the capital reserve in such a way that from an outsider's perspective, it looks like we have a significant savings that, we have, obviously we have, a bank could look at it when we talk about Chases and we talk about the investments, then we want to make sure that we look as favorable as possible. So I'm good with that. And I don't think that the $10,000 will matter. So let's change the motion to, we already voted on sweeping the 100,000, and the motion will be to review it every quarter and see what the available amount from the operating cash we have to sweep to the reserve. Is that okay? Good. Any second?
And
Okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great, good.
we're gonna sweep 100,000 in February though, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, moving on to page 4 with the meals. I'm sorry, 3. Yeah, this should be page 3. Yeah. It's been a pretty good month in January on meals. Our total meals was 6,425 meals served. Again, dining services income was up 23% for the month. Their expenses were right under budget, so that's very favorable considering. Starting next week, we will introduce a resident's favorite chef table on Mondays. We've asked the residents to place their favorite entrees that's no longer on the menu into the box on the host stand. So we'll pull those suggestions out and we'll create the chef tables based on that. I think it'll be a little fun thing for the residents. We're gonna start off with meatloaf and spaghetti meatballs. That's our first suggestion. So as of today, nobody's put their suggestions in. We put the little flyer out in the Tower Talk, so we'll keep putting that out there to get people to participate, to put their suggestion in. The new dining room menus will be posted on poster board in the front of the dining room tomorrow. The residents will receive a copy of the new menus on Friday with their Tower Talk, and the new menus will go into effect on February 28th. I think that was one item on the agenda. We'll just go ahead and touch it. You had a question?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. You didn't have a question on menu? Now page 4, sales and leasing. We have 7 condos for sale and 3 for lease. We've had 4 condos closed in 2023 so far this year. Total sales of $868,000. Any questions there? In the board packet, I went ahead and included the results from the 2022 Morrison survey. There's a graph here that shows what the survey was the first time versus second, and then the full report. I just received these so we can go over it and have a discussion for the next meeting. It's quite lengthy, so we'll put this graph out in the Tower Talk. You can see that not really much changed from the first survey.
Yeah, the only observation I'd make here is that maybe it's a little bit more consistent, because we've had very good drop, which is unfortunate. We've had far more in the good section, in the good response, with things coming from fair to good and better to good.
Basically, though, they've still got their same survey technique where there is no middle ground. Good is not the middle ground. Good says it's good, and they don't have any place in there that says it's just barely satisfactory or barely acceptable. It's either fair or poor, good, very good, or excellent. So there's 3 positives and 2 negatives, which then tends to slant the overall survey towards the good side.
But we have the literals to read though, right?
Yeah, we have the details here to read, which we
So
haven't
we
read
can
yet.
make
So,
different interpretations
right.
from it.
So we'll be able to go in there with more detail.
Mm-hmm.
And, but that, like Rita said, she just gave it to us. I thought also it's interesting to note that the cost of meals is still nowhere near what they told us it would be when they solicited our business. The total cost of a meal, the average meal, last month was $21.43. And so they were talking in the $15 range.
Right.
Give them some inflation, maybe they went to $17.
Yeah, we keep on beating that horse, but we have a new food and beverage chairperson, and we'll see what happens.
I'm just making that known, so it didn't slip under the radar. Right.
Where we're also talking about dining, this Friday we'll be providing a special meal for the Sandy Springs Police Department, firefighters, and EMS. They can choose to come eat in the dining room or pick it up. Many of them will pick it up because they'll be on call, or so it's something that we used to do years ago, and I want to bring that back to show appreciation, because after all, they're, for the most part, here every day. So I've gotten pretty good feedback from the Sandy Springs Police Department, but like you said, fire will probably have to pick up.
I'm sorry, when is that again?
Friday, the 24th. Also, we were chosen to receive a small grant from the National Charity League. They will be delivering 4 new benches this week from that grant, so that's something that's positive, nice for the community.
Where the benches go?
We're going to replace them with a couple broken ones in the courtyard and 2 out front.
Okay, so they're exterior benches.
Yeah, exterior. Also, we've been asked to participate in the first St. Patrick's Day parade here in Sandy Springs, and we are going to be doing that on March 18th. So we'll put some more information out about that if anybody wants to join. So that'll be exciting. We'll have our bus all decorated up. So something fun.
I see some of you people out there on that float, waving.
Hanging your head outside the window with the dust. All right, that's all I had. We already took care of number 2.
All right, which is, so going, we're going to 3, right?
Yeah.
So we talked, we as a board talked about the different priorities that we have for 2023, and there are a lot of them, of course, but we narrowed them down to 5 items that we're going to attempt to get to. There's no guarantee, of course, that we're going to get to it, time constraint, we have bidding to get through, but I did want to make sure that everybody was in agreement that this is what we were going to attempt to do this year, right? We're going to try to put those rooftop HVAC units in, right? And maybe we'll talk more in detail on that in a minute, if you're looking for an approval.
Yep.
For that. We're going to make our best effort to do floor 3 and 6 updates. We're going to do some refreshing of the dining room. We are going to look at the PCC flooring and their dining area to see if we can't bring that into at least this century. And then a bigger issue is the ceiling and caulking of the building envelope. So that's what we think are the priorities. Does the board agree with that? Right? Yeah. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't need a vote, so that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to try to spend our money on. Notwithstanding the issue with the chases, which is sort of the next item on the agenda. And this will be brief. We have sat down with Cooper Carey and looked at some plans and ideas about the chases. We've got a lot of work to do there. Still, we have got I've been meeting with, and I know Scott's at least met once, with Al Burgess. He's put together a small group of individuals who are very interested in helping the board communicate with the residents and the owners about, sort of the nature of the chases, what the issue is, what the strategy for repairing or replacing them is going to be, what the funding looks like, what the cost is going to be. And that's going to come out in a series of things that we have to do as we get to those pieces. But the idea is to form small groups that can talk about it and that we can present to. So there's an announcement or a message that I'll be putting out to the ownership in the next week or so. It's already prepared. What we need, once we have that announcement out, there'll be a lot of people who are wanting to know, well, how do I do this? How do I get involved? Or how do I get heard about this? Or how do I learn about it? So Al's group is going to try to put together that strategy. And when he's ready, we'll be ready, and we'll start the process, the clock ticking on that. So I think that's about it on the chases. We had a legal review of our, of sort of our liability with respect to the chases right now, and a couple of things that will come out, that are coming out of that is we're gonna have to send notices in writing to all the owners that we have issues with the chases, so that everybody is clearly on notice about that. We are also going to have to affix labels to the grills inside the units, so that people know not to remove those grills without the appropriate person present or the appropriate way to remediate it. Because what we don't want to do, what's happened is, at least in one case that I'm very familiar with, an inspector opened up the grill on their own during a sales transaction and to inspect it, and there was mold in that chase, and that mold colonized in the unit, and we had to remediate the chase, we had to remediate the unit, and that's at a cost to the homeowners. So that's the type of thing that we're going to affix a label that says, do not do this. If somebody does it and decides to ignore the label without going through the right procedure, then we will charge the homeowner back for any damage remediation that goes on there, as opposed to it being the homeowners association's bill to foot. It'll be the homeowner's bill to foot. So, go ahead, Scott.
Let me just make one word correction. You were using the word grill, and in reality, it's cover.
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 Cover, thank you. It's the thing that's in your
That's
unit.
what we call it. We
Or
call it a
panel,
panel.
yeah, panel,
Yeah, the panel,
cover,
okay.
right.
Oh, it doesn't look like a grill. It actually looks like a
It
solid.
looks like a panel, but
Yeah.
there
It's
is,
like a solid door.
there is a
No,
grill
you're right.
there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and there's a grill there, and they're two separate items, so you want to make sure that we've got the right terminology,
And
that's all.
thank you for that clarification, because I did not call it the right thing for sure. There will also be a document that's written, approved by legal, for the real estate agents, the owner, the buyer, a disclosure about what's there. And so that we don't have anything that anybody believes is a hidden defect. We have a defect that we know about. So people will be put on notice that that defect exists. That's it. That's all I have on the chases.
And this is pretty much all steps that legal says we have to take, pretty much.
Yep. Okay.
Committees?
Board, committees, right?
Mhm.
Committees is next. I'm so a little slow on the uptick here. So we have the board-led groups are the architectural committee, the finance committee, the food and beverage committee, and the social committee. And we nominated chairs for those committees last month. We said we would come up with the mission statements, which we have what I would say is a 99% finished on the mission statements. We're going to go ahead and publish those mission statements, tell everybody how many people we want on the committee, what qualifications, if any, we're looking for, and when will we be able to get that out.
Get me the information this week, we'll get it in the Towers Talk next week.
All right, so we can finish that up in the next day, right? All good?
Sure.
Okay, great. So that's the committees. Everybody should look forward to that. We would love to have volunteers, Jim.
All right, dumpster status.
No, I was looking for you to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, we went back and forth on where to place it. Ideally, we thought about Trader Joe's, reached out to the property manager. She responded back, said, I'm swamped this week, let me get back to you. Reached out 2 more times, she's not responded. So I think we've got to kind of pump from that idea and seek other areas. Okay.
the discussion on that is about trying to get the dumpster off of the parking deck. So we have tried several areas, and that was one that didn't materialize. The other thought now is I think we're gonna go ahead and limit the size of the dumpster that can be on the deck in order to limit the weight. And so any new construction will need a 10-yard or smaller dumpster. And that will increase the cost of the remodel a little bit, but it's gonna also protect the deck for everybody.
Alrighty. Status of dryers.
You're working on that too.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't replaced any.
You really all should talk into your microphone better.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
I thought I was the loudest. Status of dryers, we haven't replaced any, or I will say we haven't purchased any. We also haven't gotten any work orders for the rust in the dryers. We touched on Morrison survey, we touched on the table 300 menu status. Liquor license has been submitted. They came back wanting a business license number. I explained to them we don't actually have a business license. They were gonna have a supervisor call back. This was on Thursday, I believe. I did not receive a call back. I called back over today, not realizing they were closed because of President's Day. So we're going to be in a little more of a unique category because we're not an actual business with a business license.
Do they, obviously, we wouldn't be the first homeowners association.
Right,
to-
and that's what she was, that's why she was passing me along when I explained to her how we were set up. She was
Right.
passing me along to someone else, so they called me back, and I haven't heard from them. This was Thursday.
All right, so it's a matter of clarification at
Yes.
this point.
Right.
Okay.
And you had asked me for some data. I can send you some data. I went back and did
I'd
some
like to,
analyzing from 2016
What
on.
what our cost would be.
What's that?
Well, I asked Rita for some cost analysis on this, to know what our cost would be, what our requirements are, what our reporting requirements are, in order to be able to determine how many drinks we would have to sell at what price to break even. And, you know, if we make money, that's great, but if we break even is the first objective. And we'd like to see how practical it is.
Well, that,
If it's not, then we make a determination, we're gonna spend money and make it happen because it's a convenience.
well, I'll start with people drink here, okay? And it's a matter of us managing inventory, right? Because if you manage inventory and we know people will buy it, even at cost, you break even. So, you know, the difference is that in the older times, what we didn't have was a liquor license. And so therefore, we weren't allowed to make a profit on it. So they undersold the wine or beer or whatever it was. And so we lost money on every dollar that we invested in order to avoid the truth, which was we should have had a liquor license.
Yeah.
And so again, this is, to me, this is a service provided to the Mount, or convenience provided to Mount Vernon Towers owners who are willing to pay for it, because this isn't going to be or at least my vision of that is not, it's a you buy it, you want it, you buy it. It's just gonna be here for you to buy.
Well, that's true, and we wanna at least break even, but what's the threshold? Is it 10 drinks a night? Is it 40 drinks a night? You know, because that's the, you know, at
Oh,
what
you mean on
price-
the cost of the license?
On the cost of the license.
We can
and-
do that, we can do that right now.
And
We
the
can do that
upgrade,
right now.
and the staff that's required to do it, their licensing.
Yeah.
And just not, because the material, you know, the liquor's.
Rita, what's the
pretty
cost of the
easy.
license? No, we'll do it right now, we can do it right now, it's really a simple
First
equation.
year, it's about 7,000, including your individual pour license.
Okay, so 7,000 is what the licenses
What about the
cost.
liquor licenses
Divided
for
by,
the
let's
servers?
call it, let's charge $5 this time.
What about liquor
We
licenses?
need 1,400 drinks.
That's what I'm
1,400
calling,
glasses
that's what I'm
of wine
calling
a
the
year,
pouring
which is
license.
We serve 76,000 meals.
Which is nothing.
I think we're okay.
Well, when we were selling it before, we were selling mimosas for $1, Bloody Marys for $1, bottles of wine for $6, cocktails for $2. I mean, we were basically selling it
I'll
all.
take 10 per month.
Yeah.
Reed, what are you in for?
I'm in for 20.
I mean.
Well, didn't have the numbers, I just needed the numbers.
Yeah,
I wanted to see the numbers.
it'll wind up being for a profit. There's no question, because I think that if you, did you send him
2018
any numbers?
No, I just did this
Oh, okay.
over the weekend. In 2018, we sold 4,291 beverages at cost. In 2019, we only had a partial year because that's when we stopped. We sold 2,625 beverages at cost.
How much did we spend on liquor in 2019, I guess?
2019, we spent. We spent 18,295, but that also includes our alcohol that we give away at parties and activities.
That's what we spent on alcohol, yeah.
So, yeah,
That shouldn't be, the people who don't drink shouldn't pay for the people who drink.
Right, absolutely.
So-
But we will license the increased liability.
Unless you want to buy one for your friend. So. I mean, we could go through it in
Yeah.
excruciating, nauseating detail. If you like. But it's 1,400, that break even at $5 a glass of wine, which is a bargain anywhere, is 1,400 glasses of wine. There isn't a number there that's less than 1,400, right?
right.
And between Reed and I, we got 30.
You haven't counted me yet.
Well, I know, because I know we'll go into the hundreds.
Before we get into board business, in the packet I included 2 estimates plus a diagram of the rooftop units. We're waiting on a 3rd estimate. Rick's called a couple times and they're not gung-ho to come out here. As you can see in this diagram, it's not a simple project because of logistics of getting the old units off the rooftop and the new ones on. Our problem is the Freon is no longer available for any of these units. The 3rd unit, the compressor's out in it, it's right near 10,000 to replace. This 4th unit, during inspection last week, is throwing fluid, which Rick believes the compressor's about to go out in it. The bid that I would like to go with is with Wilson's Heating and Air. We have a rapport with them. They've always provided our larger units that we've purchased. The total of the 4 units is $184,979 with no deposit. The lead time is 6 to 9 months once we sign it. The second bid is for the exact same units with a new company, and the price on that is $232,584 with 50% down, and their lead time was 9 months. What I'm saying is we've got to go ahead and get something. We've got to go ahead and get this approved, get it ordered, because with the lead time on it, we're going to be into summer. If those units go down, no common area in the building is going to have heating or air.
Including dining.
Dining separate. That would be all the floors, all the sitting areas, elevator
How long
lobbies.
does it take?
6 to 9 months lead time.
No, to get there, but the actual replacement.
Once they're in,
Well, no, actually, you have to take service offline
right.
to put
They'll do
service
it in
on.
one day.
They'll do it in one
right.
day.
They'll have to get permission to set a crane over in Trader Joe's. That's what this diagram's for. And a crane over in our side parking lot. And in one day, they'll take them off and put back on.
That's
And
probably one day each unit. Not
They-
one day, all 3 of them
They
in
told
one
us,
day?
all 4, they told us, because see, they're gonna have different cranes set up, so they're
Oh, they're
gonna,
bringing multiple cranes.
right, multiple
Okay.
cranes. There's a crane here with a trailer and then 2 cranes over here. And they're 3 different sized cranes. Well, two 130 tons and 1 75 ton.
I see the one unit, I know train is the one estimate, train equipment. The other estimate is American Standard equipment. I'm not overly familiar with that one. I wonder who makes that equipment. Do we know?
Rick probably would. We could.
Yeah, if we could ask him, because there's some of these manufacturers that are substantially better than others. And this price differential, what are we at, 15 and $45,000, $47,000 difference in price. It's a nice big number to be different in spread.
Right.
And I just wonder about the quality of this American Standard equipment.
We could get some specs on it for you.
Yeah.
So is there an action here? Is there an additional action?
We're gonna get some specs on the American Standard
All right.
and I'll send it out.
So does anybody have any objection if once we get the final information, and hopefully we'll get the third quote as well. But does anybody have any objection to voting on this on mail? As opposed to waiting till the next board meeting?
Well, I think we ought to vote on it once we get the paperwork in, whether it's in 2 weeks or, a day or 2 weeks or whatever. So we get it done as quick as we can.
I mean, if it coincides with the
Yeah.
meeting, then that's fine.
If
But
it coincides with the meeting, it's fine. We need to get it done before the next meeting, though. I
Right,
think,
yeah, because if I heard you correctly, one unit's spewing fluid
Right.
and is one unit
Has a
not
compressor
working.
down, right.
Right, so that puts stress on,
Well, that puts us into September already.
Yeah.
So summertime, we're gonna lose summer no matter what if we don't have the units up there.
yeah, okay.
And there's no warranty mentioned on the Wilson quote either, so.
It's right here.
Oh, there it is, okay.
Yeah.
1 year.
Which is
1
the
year.
same as, I know, I was surprised too. It's a stain on.
The other one's
same-
5 year on the compressor.
5-year on compressor.
Do they have extended warranty pricing, do you know?
They have it available. We didn't get the extended warranty pricing. We can though.
Might as well.
I can get the pricing on it.
Might be interested to look at, yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Are we done with the normal agenda? Is that what we're?
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
This 50% down, I think I heard that we were gonna wait until we got some specs. But is that 50% down, would we receive that back if it's between a 6 and a 9 month start period? How long do we have to retrieve that 50% back?
No, if you go with,
Oh, that's
Wilson,
theirs,
yeah.
sorry,
right,
sorry,
if you
sorry.
go with the PM company, it's 50% down just to order it.
Okay, so this Wilson, we're looking for specs on, right?
On because he's familiar
And-
with Train, but he's not familiar with American Standard.
Okay,
So we're gonna get the specs on what American Standard
Okay.
is. And Rick may have them.
and we don't have any deposit for that.
Correct. But we can't go ahead and tell them
I
to
don't know
order
why
it.
we can't go ahead and.
Well,
send us
but we
a-
have a relationship with them.
Yes, we're not gonna tell them to order something and then back out.
Right.
Okay. Are they gonna order now?
No, they're not gonna order till we sign saying that we're gonna purchase it.
Okay, forget it. I was just thinking that maybe, okay, we'll wait for the specs.
Specialty order.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not something they would keep in stock.
That's a specialty order. Once you order it, you buy it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to see Judge Judy.
I know what you'd say. This
Okay.
is your contract.
Is that that's the agenda, right?
Rick,
Okay, so
other
is,
board business?
yeah, any other board would be,
Business.
board business?
I do. I'd like to make a motion. And I'd like to make a motion to state that the board has heard the owners vote in the December annual meeting for the resident owner board members not to receive any compensation. and should be a volunteer position only. So we have heard you loud and clear. So we move to remove any monthly compensation from the non-resident owner and place that amount of money into the reserves. You second? Discussion?
We don't vote.
We don't vote.
No, but you don't vote, but you could discuss.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
I've got no personally, I've got no objection to it. The owners said in the annual meeting that the 3 resident board members had no business taking compensation. That's what they said.
Great.
And overwhelmingly, they did not sign a consent to that point. So therefore, my view of that is that if it wasn't but for we had a standing compensation from years ago, they wouldn't have wanted it for us either. So that's my discussion. I mean, it's an owner's decision. They made that decision. They sent that message loud and clear. And so, it is what it is. That's what I said. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, as I said before, the only reason I thought that 400 was in there was to compensate the outside board members for their transportation costs. And it was a simplified method of doing that. And that would be the only thing that I would think that any board member had a substantial amount of travel, that would be important. Personally, I'm fairly close, so I don't have a big expense going on with that. But some others might sometime in the future. So I would like to see that worded such that it says that the outside board members would be compensated for transportation cost at some rate, whatever it was determined to be. But otherwise, just a flat 400, no, that's not important. The monthly fee is not important. And for me personally, it's not important. I would just like to see it for someone who may live an hour or 2 away, if they could get something to cover their costs to come to a meeting. That's all.
I personally don't think somebody living an hour away is gonna go
Probably
on the
not.
board.
Well, it's supposed to be brought up and voted on by the 3 resident owners every year, so next year it would be
We
brought
can
up
revisit
again.
this, right?
Well, that's fine.
Well, when I joined the board, I wasn't expecting any compensation. I appreciated the fact that we got meals, and that was a very nice tender by the community. But if we don't, then we don't, and I think that it should be eliminated across the board.
Okay. Any other discussion? Then the 3,
I
vote? Yay?
Yeah.
Okay, it has to be unanimous, so it is. All right, thank you.
Any other business?
More questions?
4 questions.
Next, what's that?
More
Oh,
questions.
questions. Sorry, thank you for waking me up. Okay, we'll take discussion from the floor. There you go.
Okay, I've got a couple, but my first question has to do for the bids for the chases. Is there any provision in those bids for mold remediation? My question is, if you just pull the outside stucco substrate off without taking care of mold remediation on the organic material inside, we close it back up and then the mold's going to grow back because of the water, etc. That was my thought.
The mold situation that's going on is primarily on the material that will be removed during the renovation process.
The plantums, the wood plantums that the HVAC sit on?
The wood and those boxes that are supporting the HVAC unit would be cleaned with a remote remediation product, yes.
And sealed?
Well, the boxes are already sealed, so they wouldn't need to be, because that's the way that works, they're already sealed. But if they needed to be resealed, they would be resealed, yes.
Okay. Because I'm just not convinced that pulling the outside off without taking care of the inside issues is gonna address the mold. And yeah, I agree that the mold is there and has to be, we have to do something to clean up the units. But, when were we able to look at the bids, the specs on the bids? That's probably my better question. To see what the companies are proposing to do.
Okay, well, we met with the architect Wednesday last week, and they came in with a rough bid proposal. There are several things in that proposal that they're asking for that I have questions on. The board has not yet even discussed those questions to know if we're gonna go forward with this proposal from the architect. And so, can't answer your question, in other words, because we're still in the process of doing that. Your other point, though, I think I want to address, is the fact that if we don't eliminate the mold in the chases, and we don't eliminate the moisture intrusion, that we're barking up the wrong tree. We're just putting lipstick on a pig, if you will. We're not getting the job done. And so, yes, that's all to be handled. And one of the other discussions going on is how do we handle potential moisture accumulation over a 3 or 4 or 5 year period, as opposed to, just because it'll gradually accumulate on its own if you don't do something about it. So that's also part of the discussion, which I can't give you an answer on just yet now, still in discussion.
You might be able to answer this. In the architectural firm you have, do they have structural, mechanical, and HVAC engineers on staff, or is it just an architectural firm?
They have MEP.
They have at least context for all of those services that they frequently use.
No, I believe that
They-
they have,
within
that's
Cooper
one of
They
their
have some on
studios.
staff, I
MEP
know,
studio,
but they
yeah.
still have some outsides too, I think they use. But anyway.
Got another, nobody else does. Okay, coming up with a vote on the capital improvement. Will this be, it's an owners meeting, obviously. So will it be a yes or no vote, or will it be a signature requesting the capital expense? I just.
I think the vote, so the only vote that will be taken will be the one of funding, okay? Because we're doing a capital repair, okay? It doesn't necessarily require any owner vote. But because it exceeds what we have in our reserve, because it may exceed what we have in our reserve, and I'm gonna circle back in a second, because there's another part of that. But if it exceeds what we can pay for and we have to find the money somehow, that can come from financing, or it can come from, a special assessment, and we're authorized to put that in front of you guys for a vote. So that's what you would be voting on. Okay, now having said that, part of the process of evaluating, and this is part of what the architectural firm has provided us with, is sort of a layout of how they would go about and do this, how they would request the bidding for it. And at that point, we'll go through a value engineering process. That value engineering process is, okay, we just handed you just got your sticker shock. So let's talk about what the alternatives are. You start with exactly the best solution, and by the way, it's probably the most expensive solution. But then you gotta do your value engineering, you gotta say, okay, well, you know what, maybe we don't have to do all this, or maybe it's not maybe it's not metal, maybe it's the ephes, or whatever the material is, and it's gonna do the same job, what's the warranty? So we'll get around to how do we bring the cost down to its minimum point through the bidding process and then through the value engineering. And after that, what we can do is present to the community the options that we have, the way we think it has to happen, and you guys are gonna vote on it. I'm gonna vote on it. You know, I'm just one vote. I mean, it's not like I'm trying to, or anybody on this board is all excited about it, okay? We're not excited about it. But we also know that the building is almost 40 years old, and we've seen the pictures of what's going on. And so we know that we believe very strongly that if we've now inspected 45 chases, we've worked on 45 chases. It's cost us already over 60 grand, right? And that's just going to you guys. So it's like, you know, when's the madness going to stop? So we're going to present the plan for a vote of the ownership.
Right. What's the percentage of votes that you need to do that?
It'll be a majority of a quorum,
Right.
or 151 votes.
On that same,
Can I ask a question?
yes,
Really
you
quick?
may, I'm sorry.
I gotta run back to
I
work
can
in just
see
a
that.
second. But guys, I'm just curious on I know there was a little bit of discussion regarding the liquor license. And I know there's some data, like Scott was asking about some additional data regarding not only the cost of the license, but what's the cost of the alcohol? What's the cost of the increased liability insurance that we're gonna take on? And has that analysis been done? Because it doesn't sound like it has been. And then the second part of that is, I just wanna say, I didn't move here to Mount Vernon to be in the bar business, and I'm kind of questioning why we're taking that on if we don't really understand the economics, the whole economics of the situation.
I think all the diligence will be done. That's necessary to be done. Look, I'm not, you know, we've gotten a lot of information from a lot of folks that tells us that folks want this, right?
Okay,
Folks
will you be
want
willing to
availability.
share- But
to it.
okay, so I'm not debating whether you've gotten it. It just doesn't sound like you have.
Mhm.
So, but how are we going to address issues where we have family members coming here? We're going to be serving people that don't live here. And have you thought about what our liability is if they get drunk on our property and go outside and kill somebody? So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I mean, whether or not people want it, I mean, that's something that we can decide as a group, but I really feel like that's something that we need to think about when we're talking about adding this additional liability to everybody that lives here. So that's all I'm concerned about. Like, I would like to have a really thorough understanding of the situation and all of those potential liabilities being addressed before we start down that path. That's all I'm asking. And so as an owner, I'm very concerned about that situation because I think it opens us up to that situation. And if we don't look at that liability ahead of time and do that risk assessment, I feel like you guys, if you're not doing that, then you're not doing your due diligence. So I would like to see where that information has been done, and so that I can understand what's going on, because honestly, I would not vote for it. And it feels like something that increases my liability as a homeowner, and I feel like I need to be involved in that decision before it's made. But I don't know. I mean, I'd
Right.
like to know what other people think.
No,
as well.
it's a fair point. So, but that information will be taken up with the insurance company, with our insurance carrier.
Just another thing with that, do we renew this every year, the license?
Yeah, but it's not, what you're renewing every year is minimal fee plus $50 for each person that's gonna pour it.
Pardon me?
What's renewable each year is $50 per person that's going to serve it.
We don't renew the liquor license every year.
Right, it's very minimal fee,
But we do renew
Yes.
it every year.
yes.
If we have
We
it,
have to-
if
we have to be
this
able to
passes
keep our-
one
Right.
year, if it passes for a year, and we find out that we are definitely not selling enough drinks to pay for it, can we then say,
We
let's
can-
throw in the
yeah.
towel?
Right, we can surrender our license.
Okay.
Back to utilities, electricity. I visited Ace Hardware just 2 days ago to buy light bulbs. And I was told, and it was labeled on the shelf, that as of January 31st, not only will we not be able to buy old-timey light bulbs, but it will be illegal. So, I'm wondering if we should push encouraging residents to change out their light bulbs and go with what will be legal and is meant to cut our utility bill.
Everything that we install now is LED except for inside the condos. May not be LED.
I would say that a little louder.
I think that's an interesting idea, and I think over time it will be taking care of itself. If you can't buy something, it's gonna get replaced. So, and of course, if you looked at the price of LED light bulbs, I'm not sure you're gonna be able to encourage a lot of people to swap out 5 or 6 or 10 of them. They're pretty expensive.
And to go a little bit further,
Can't hear you.
You all remember about 30 years ago when we started encouraging
Ask her to
recycling?
put the mic up.
We started encouraging the recycling campaigns. What if we start a campaign here, asking people to turn off their lights when they leave their apartment? Simple, just like the Depression.
We can ask them, certainly.
Not a bad idea to ask.
I just have a favor to ask of Rita, really. If when upcoming votes, upcoming meetings, if you might be able to just send out a quick email. I mean, I'm a non-con resident, and I try and keep up with things, but I think maybe we'd get more participation if people knew about things. Maybe I'm just,
You talking about everything we do?
no, gosh, no.
Oh.
No, I was thinking, for instance, votes, board meetings, because, I could pull up the activity calendar, and if it's a current activity calendar, it's no problem getting. Information that's put on the owner's site,
Okay,
that just,
I get what you're
just
saying.
things, I don't want to make more work for it, just a very simple, owners, there is an upcoming board meeting, it is Monday instead of Wednesday, it's 1 instead of 1:30, that sort of thing.
okay.
Thank you.
I just have a simple question for clarification. I just want to be sure I'm understanding it correctly. When we voted for the change of our bylaws with the $400, we voted it no. But I thought the bylaws stayed the way that they were. And I believe the bylaws state that the non-resident board members will receive some kind of a compensation. It's my understanding from what you said that the 3 other board members vote on that every
Right.
year.
That's in the
What they will
bylaws.
get, that's not stated in the bylaws, so I just
Yeah,
wanted
it
to,
is.
I just wanted to clarify that.
It's in the bylaws.
Is it?
Yes.
I didn't understand it that way. Thank you.
It's actually in the bylaws on section 4.09. Any other questions?
Next meeting?
We're on here. I think it's the 23rd, or I'm sorry, the 22nd at 1:30. Is everybody good with
March
that?
22nd. Everybody good with that for now? That's what it is.
March 22nd puts us back on a Wednesday.
Or we're looking to April, just so we don't,
Yeah,
I mean, could we,
I'm here.
just to, put it- yeah, just to kind of at least pencil it in?
So in
In the
April,
19th, probably.
I know, it's,
I'm good.
yeah, 19th. When
It's
it's,
tight for you.
yeah,
for
it's
budget.
tight because I don't get, some of the information for the previous month until the end of this week. But we can make it work.
Date, again?
So March 22nd and April 19th.
Okay.
Oh, April 19th.
Everybody okay with that? Yep.
Good.
All right, then I'll, anything else before I move to adjourn? Okay, we had something. Yeah, yeah.
I have not had pest control service since our last pest control person was here. Now, I was told that pest control would be here every 2 weeks. That was somewhat misleading.
Have you put a work order in?
Oh, yes. And then later on, Rick told me he is here for 2 floors on certain days, and 2 weeks later for 2 more floors, then 2 weeks later for 2 more floors. And so we have pest control service once every 3 months for each condo. Well, I do believe this person must tiptoe down the hall, and if he knocks on each door, it must be very gently, because I have not seen or heard from him since our new contract went into effect. I would like for that to be clarified. I would like to know when he is going to be on my floor, whether it is an A and B building. In other words, I would like to have pest control service.
We can put out what floors they're going to be on every 2 weeks, but if you have an issue in your condo and you put a work order in, they'll come to your condo even if it's not your floor scheduled.
Well, I put a work order.
Okay, I'll check on yours and, individually, but we can start putting out that it's gonna be on floors 1 and 2 on this date, 3 and 4 on this date.
Well, you did that last time, but he was not here. So he didn't show up.
I saw him here, he's done really good for the
On
kitchen,
date
but.
he was supposed to be on. So he just did not come. Now, if that's the kind of pest control service we're having, we need to get another pest control agent.
Okay, maybe he didn't knock loud enough. I know he was here for a fact.
Well, it is very poor service.
Right.
Does he knock on every door on the floor, or do you have to put a work order in for him to knock on the door?
You have to put a work order in if you have a problem, or if you want him to come to your condo.
Got it.
We'll put that out in this week's Towers Talk, just a refresh on, if you've noticed in the Towers Talk, every week we've been putting out a refresh of a rule. So we'll put that out.
I have had the gentleman to knock on my door, and I did not put a work order in. So they may or may not.
They're supposed to knock on the door if you have a work order put in.
Yeah, but I did not have a work order, and he came to check to see if I had any problems.
That was the old guy, Janice, he used to knock on all the doors.
Okay.
Yeah, come on, bring them up.
Okay.
Rita, you should make sure that the pest control person leaves a note on anybody's door that has a work order saying that they came, they knocked, and there was no answer. Most service companies do that. They leave a
Right.
note saying they were there.
Yeah, we do that here. If we go to the door and nobody answers, we leave a little thing.
Yes.
Okay.
They can't go into the person's place.
Mm-mm. No.
Okay, with that, I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
Second, 2:40. Second, all those in favor? Good. All right, we're done. Thank you, everybody.